Hey, listener here from VidGamiac.com. Here we are today back in Brok the InvestiGator, going for the worst investigator ever achievement. This is to punch every single NPC outside of combat at least once. We're going to start out in Chapter 1 while we are in the apartment. You want to make sure you go over here to where Graff is. To punch someone, you want to make sure you hit the Y button to enter action mode, and then just go up to them and then make sure you hit them. You only need to hit them once in order to count for the achievement, so make sure you don't get carried away and then hit them more than they need to. Anyways, once we get that first character out of the way, we're going to continue on with the story. Make sure you leave the apartment, and you are going to have to save the Tramp initially from the rats, so make sure you take care of them. And then once you get control of your character, make sure you quickly switch over to action mode and then punch the Tramp yourself, and that should be 2 characters out of the way. So make sure you try to keep the Tramp alive, at least for this initial encounter with him. After this, we're going to head over to our next destination, which is going to be Sin's apartment over in Sector 56X. When you first arrive, you should be out here on the streets. You should notice a street merchant right here. Make sure you go up to her and then enter action mode and then smack her a good 1 time. Even if your attack doesn't do any damage, as long as you get a reaction, that's going to be what counts for the achievement. So make sure you take care of that, and then it's going to be on to Sin's apartment. Make sure you head on inside, and then make sure you have your initial conversation with him. As soon as you get free roam to inspect the rest of the apartment, make sure you quickly get a hit on him, and then you should take care of another NPC off of the list. Once you have that out of the way, feel free to wrap up whatever you need to do at Sin's apartment, and then it's going to be off to Shay's garage next to do some more story-related stuff. Once you get access to the actual inside of the garage, you want to make sure you head over to behind her desk. You're going to have the initial conversation with her, make sure you get through all of that, and then once you do get control of your character, make sure you try to smack her at least once. It's a little hard to hit her since her hitbox is a little awkward. She's going to be another character you can't damage, but make sure you do get to the reaction, and that's going to be what counts towards the achievement. So make sure you get that character out of the way, and then we're going to move on to the next location after we wrap up there in the form of the border post. Once we're here, we should meet the robot right here in the form of Bolt. Make sure you hit him once and then get that one out of the way real quick. After this, we're going to play through a big chunk of Chapter 1 up to the point where we are in the sewers in the second area with the mines. Make sure you cross the minefield, and then once you get to the end of this, you're going to have the encounter with the rat gang. Now, this one may be missable if you plan on going about this next part without doing any fighting, so make sure you do keep that in mind. However, you can still get it if you are doing a pacifist run. So what you want to do is make sure you encounter the rat gang, either by going too far or interacting with the broken mine. Once you start the conversation with them, make sure you choose to threaten them, and then right after that, you're going to want to choose to bluff. This should allow you to hit the Rat Chief without you starting a fight with the rest of the gang, so make sure you pick that, and then you should get control of your character again to choose a different option to try to get past. What you want to do is make sure you enter action mode. Make sure you hit the Chief only 1 time. If you hit him a second time, it's going to start the fight. So make sure you hit him once, and if you do plan on doing this the puzzle-solving way, make sure you back off after hitting him once, and then you should be safe to move on with the rest of the chapter. Make sure you finish up the rest of Chapter 1 and then start up Chapter 2. Of course, Chapter 2 is going to be the first chapter where you could switch between the 2 different character scenarios. I'm going to recommend that you play Brok's scenario first. So, the beginning of Brok's scenario is going to have him in jail, and the goal is to escape. Now, it's going to be very important that you take longer than 15 minutes to try to escape jail. The reason for that is you are going to need to have Brok miss Graff's science fair, and that's going to give you the ability to meet a certain character later on in a scenario where you can actually hit them. So if you already know how to escape out of jail, just make sure you set a timer and then make sure you don't start until 15 minutes have elapsed. If you're doing this on your first playthrough, you're probably going to get this naturally, as it is going to take you some time to figure out how exactly to escape. Now, one more side note before we actually get started with this chapter. There is a character who you are going to need to hit in order to get the count for this achievement. Now, you're going to meet this character several other times during the game, and during those times you can hit them in order to get the count for the achievement. However, if you want to get it out of the way as quick as possible, you're going to want to do it right here. Make sure you keep the jail cell in restroom mode and then enter action mode. Make sure you attack the sink until RJ, the cop, shows up, and then just keep hitting the sink until he gets mad enough to open the cell and challenges you to a fight. And this fight is actually going to count for you hitting him as part of this achievement. But again, you are going to meet him several times later on during the game, so if you want to wait for those moments to try to get the hit on him, then you can. But if you do plan on escaping jail through the violent method, you can also get this one out of the way early if you want to. Whatever you decide to do, just make sure you burn your 15 minutes, and then once those 15 minutes have elapsed, make sure you escape out of jail, and then we're going to start Graff's scenario, which is going to be the science fair. We're going to start out by punching our compatriots, so make sure you punch Ott, and then you can also punch Stewbot if you want to. Thankfully, he's not going to count towards the achievement, as all NPC Tribots are not going to count towards the achievement. But who is going to count for the achievement is going to be Klay, who's going to be outside resting on this bed right here. So make sure you exit the glass dome and make sure you give him a good smack. Remember to only punch him once if you do plan on doing the puzzle solving solution to this part of the chapter. If you punch him multiple times, what's going to happen is you're going to automatically fail this part. So make sure you do keep that in mind. So make sure you finish up the rest of Chapter 2, and make sure you do have Brok miss the science fair. That should roll you into Chapter 3 during Brok's scenario, where you can have the ability to head over to the Consciousness Center as Brok. Once you are here, you're going to need to talk to the director. She's going to ask you for a favor. Just make sure you get through that conversation, and then once that's over and you have control of your character again, you should be able to enter action mode here and then hit the director, and then you can take care of her count towards the achievement. This is going to be the only situation where you can hit her, so make sure you try to set the game up in a way where you do get this opportunity. And it's only going to be able to happen if you happen to have Brok miss Graff's science fair or have Graff fail the science fair. So make sure you take care of that, and that's going to be on with the rest of the chapter. Eventually, you're going to need to head over to Hacker Street, and then you're going to need to meet the hacker. If you didn't get RJ's hit out of the way in the previous chapter, you can do it right here, as he is now the security guard for the hacker. But nonetheless, once you take care of RJ and get past him, you're going to enter the building and then meet this new NPC in the form of the hacker called the Gloom. Make sure you get through his little introduction bit, and then once you get control of your character in this room, make sure you switch over to action mode and then give him a good punch. We're going to move on to Chapter 4. This is going to be the start of the chapter where you are playing Brok's scenario with Ott. You're going to head to the lab. Once you get inside the lobby, you're going to meet the security guard. After you have your initial conversation with him, you're going to want to head behind the desk, enter action mode, and then punch him once, and that should take care of another NPC. Then we're going to roam around the lab and then have our little investigation. Start out by going into the room on the left. We're going to need to investigate a few things in order to get access to the next couple of rooms. The three things you want to investigate are going to be the biscuit crumbs right here to the right of the desk. You're going to want to investigate the coffee stain right here in the middle left of the room. And then finally, you want to make sure you interact with the screen right here on the left wall. Make sure you get all three of those before leaving the room. And then we're going to head to the next room, which is going to be the one on the right. So you're going to try to knock, and then the NPC inside is not going to let you in. You can either try to convince him, or if you want to, you can switch over to action mode and then break the door down. Make sure you get access to the room, and you're going to meet Dr. Mink, and then you're going to get the introduction to the murder case that is going to be this scenario's investigation. Once you get control of your character, of course, switch over to action mode and then punch Dr. Mink to get his count for the achievement. You're going to want to investigate the murder scene and the rest of Dr. Mink's lab, but once you're done with that, you're going to head back out into the lobby. Make sure you return to the room on the left, and then you'll notice the thing is going to be fully charged at 100%. Go up to the robot on the right. It should wake up, and then once you get its initial conversation out of the way, make sure you enter action mode and then give it a good punch. Remember, only Tribots are not going to count for the achievement. However, other robots are going to count, and this is going to be another one of them. So make sure you get Tidy the robot out of the way, and then we're going to finish up that chapter and move on to Chapter 5. So there shouldn't be anyone new to meet during Graff's scenario, so we're going to skip ahead to Brok's scenario, which has you investigating the pipe pill problem. This is eventually going to lead you to the factory where you're supposed to meet Dr. Gherkin. Dr. Gherkin's going to be in the bunker. There's going to be a couple of ways to get him out. You can either do the puzzle solving way, or you could try to break the door open and then try to chase him down. Nonetheless, once you finally get him outside and are able to talk to him, make sure you give him a good smack, and then that should be another character out of the way, and that's going to take us into the final chapter. Now, we are going to need to have the game branch off in a way where we can have an interaction with a specific character. Thankfully, the first step of this should have been taken care of because we either had Graff fail the science fair or we had Brok miss the science fair, which is going to cause Graff to have a low enough test score where he should be able to continue the game past this point. So if you are allowed to continue past this point, what's going to happen is Graff is going to head over to Hacker Street with Ott, and then you're going to have to pay the hacker off in order to try to change your test score. You are then going to leave, and then what you need to do is you need to make sure you head over to the right. If RJ is still alive in your playthrough, you're going to need to talk to him first, but you're going to head to the right regardless. And then once you are there, you're going to get jumped by the rats. You are going to be given a choice right here, and you want to make sure you pick one that allows you to continue playing the game past this point. So the best option is going to be to pick Do Nothing, which is going to result in you and Ott being captured. But what's going to happen next is you're going to transition over to Brok's scenario over at the bunker. Once you get inside and then get through all of the talking bits, you are going to finally have control of your character, and you should also have access to the ability to punch D. Make sure you do so. She is the only NPC that actually hits you back, so make sure you are a little careful, especially if you are at low health. Make sure you wrap up Brok's scenario at the bunker, and make sure you wrap up Graff's scenario in the sewers, where he ends up escaping. Then you should be able to continue the game as Brok. You're going to need to head over to Hacker Street. You are either going to need to talk to the hacker, or you're going to need to talk to RJ. It shouldn't really matter since both outcomes lead to you going to the right and then heading over to this manhole cover. You should get a choice whether or not to save the slums or to save Graff. Make sure you choose save the slums. This is going to result in you and D heading over to the junkyard to confront Wes. So make sure you choose that one, as this is going to be the scenario that has the last character we need, which is going to be Wes. You're going to get an interrogation with him. Make sure you pick this arrow, which is to back out of the investigation. That should allow you to have free roam of the junkyard. Make sure you enter action mode and then try to hit him, and that's going to be the 18th and final NPC we need to hit. Once you have all of them, you should be good for this achievement. It's going to be for 30 gamer score, and that's all there is to it.